Now, if you've been following along with the history competition, much of this will look familiar to you, as the International Geography Championships is a similar event, but obviously with a focus on geography rather than history.
那在于刚才呢，我们下面呢，我们就来进入到了这个地理奥林匹克竞赛的这个介绍中。那如果呢，刚才大家一直有认真的就是听到我们历史竞赛的相关的信息的话，那接下来你可能会发现呢，这个地理竞赛的很多信息呢，跟历史竞赛的是非常的相似的，因为他们的很多的赛事的结构啊，包括参赛选手的一些信息啊等等，都是非常相似的。
Okay, so our International Geography Championships was held for the first time in 2018 in Berlin, Germany. And we are now finally able to hold it again this summer, starting in just a week from today at the University of Vermont in Burlington. We also have a full day trip to Montreal in Canada.
国际的地理奥林匹克竞赛呢，它是从2018年呢在德国进行了第一届的竞赛，但是呢，因为疫情原因呢，我们线下的这个竞赛呢一直受到了影响。那接下来呢，我们会进行这个第二届的竞赛，在加拿大，然后所以呢，也欢迎大家呢，就是届时呢可以关注我们的赛事的进展。
And the next International Geography Championships after 2022 will actually be held in 2024, so every 2 years going forward. And in 2024, they're going to be held in Ecuador in South America. And students who attend the International Geography Championships there will also have the opportunity to do hands-on field work in the Amazon rainforest, the Galapagos Islands, where Darwin studied, and also in the Andes Mountains and in Quito, the capital.
那我们的地理竞赛呢也是2年一届的，那所以呢下一届的这个竞赛呢是在2024年，所以呢如果感兴趣的学生和家长呢，那下一届呢可以参加的机会是在这个24年了，所以希望大家呢持续关注我们的竞赛的信息。那24年的竞赛呢是在南美洲，所以参赛选手呢，除了参加竞赛以外，还有机会呢参与到我们在热带雨林中的这些科研的项目、实地的考察。所以选手们呢，会在这个热带雨林中去做一些非常实践操作的这些一些研究。然后包括呢，去验证或者是去进一步的去探索达尔文相关的理论。
Okay, and the Geography Championships is split into 3 age divisions. So we have a high school division for students in 9th grade through 12th grade, or basically age 15 to 18. The middle school division is for students age basically 12 to 14 or so, or those who are just finished grade 7 and 8. The elementary division is for students who are younger than that. So once again, students compete against other students close to them in age.
那我们的地理竞赛呢，分为3个年龄段。第一个年龄段呢，就是高中阶段，是15到18周岁。然后初中的这个年龄段呢，是12到14周岁。然后小学年龄段呢，就是12周岁以下的学生。
Okay, so in Berlin, when we had the Geography Championships, there were any number of events that focused specifically on Berlin. So you can see some examples there of us taking the train in Berlin, seeing the Berlin Wall. But this year, as I said, we're going to be up in Vermont, in the northern part of the United States, close to Canada. And then we're actually going to Canada to Montreal for a day. And in Montreal, they have a different culture. They speak French, and it's a colonial city going back to the 1500s when the French first settled.
那大家呢现在可以看到呢，是18年在这个德国柏林的这个知识竞赛的一些当时相应的这些一些留影的记录了。然后今年的赛事呢是在这个美国靠近加拿大的这个边境的 Vermont 的这个城市中去举办的。然后同时呢还会有1天的这个活动和赛事呢是在加拿大去举办的，然后会带领学生们去了解当地的一些人文环境以及地理相关的一些知识。
And you can see some more pictures from the Geography Championships that were held in Berlin. And that's a photo, actually, that photo is of Quebec City, but that's where we'll be in 2023 for the History Olympiad. But we'll be in Burlington, Vermont, and Montreal, Quebec for this year. Perhaps we can have a look quickly at the website. It's geochampionship.com. And then we can once again just walk through the events. That we do have the International Geography B as a competition that focuses on geography, that is also there for students who are in China or in other countries around the world. So just the same way that there's the International History B and the International History Bowl, we also have the International Geography B that students can compete in throughout Asia. There's no Geography Bowl except at the International Geography Championships, where it's one of the events.
那跟刚才我们的这个历史的奥林匹克竞赛很相似的，我们也有这个抢答的这个竞赛，然后同时呢，我们也包括这个个人赛跟团体赛，还有一系列的其他的这种金牌的赛事。
Okay, and just like the History Olympiad, the Geography Championships is broken down into another number of exams, buzzer-based quiz tournaments, other medal events, field trips, and then just other events in general. So if you click under View Events where it says buzzer-based quiz competitions, walk through those. So here, again, we have an East Asian Geography B and a South Asian Geography B, which focus on countries like China, Japan, Korea for the East Asian Geography B, and countries like India, Nepal, and Pakistan for the South Asian Geography B. The Blitz, again, is just as it is at the Olympiad, a competition where we only give you the topic right as the competition starts. Historical Geography B, that's always a very popular event, and that focuses on all aspects of geography that are linked back to history. The International Geography B World Championships is pretty much what it sounds like. That's the top overall competition where students compete on questions across all aspects of world geography. The Geography Bowl is a team event similar to the Geography B, in that once again, you're competing for your country or your US state. The Melee is a new event this year where students, up to 32 students on the buzzer at once are competing on a set of questions. And that's going to be a lot of fun. The questions themselves are going to be very long, so that way we can still differentiate the top students. But the best students will go out pretty quickly, so everyone will still have a chance to get some buzzing in. The Scramble is the same as it is for history. It's a topic that we give students just briefly in advance. The South Asian Geography B is what it sounds like. And then the Visual Geography B is largely a competition with maps and other geographical visual references that we can ask questions about. So all of these are once again played with a buzzer system and the style of question that moves from harder information to easier information. We do questions like that so that they're not just a function of how much do you know, but how much can you critically think through any topic in history or geography on short notice? Can you figure out what part of the world we're in or what era in history we're in, even if you aren't 100% sure of all the contextual clues? And that's how you start being able to narrow down your possible answer choices and become more confident. And of course, if you wait to ring in until you're 100% sure, somebody else may get in ahead of you. But if you are a little too quick, then perhaps you're making too much of a risk, because once you're wrong on a question, you can't ring in again.
那这里呢是我们一系列的这个抢答的赛事。那大家可以看到呢，有一些赛事呢，它前面会有某一个地区的这个名称，比如说这里有东亚呀或者南亚的这个地理赛事。那这样的赛事呢，就是以这个区域内的一些国家为考试的范围。那刚才呢这个赛事我们也介绍过了，同样呢在历史和地理赛事中都有出现，是考察学生的一个短时的记忆。那这个历史地理的这个赛事呢是非常受欢迎的一个赛事。那它考察呢就是一个学生对于地理的一个整体的知识的了解和沉淀。 然后呢，我们最终的这个赛事呢是这个国际的这个地理的知识竞赛冠军赛。所以呢，如果大家呢参加其他赛事以后能够顺利晋级到最终这个赛事中的话，那就会参加我们暑假的这个到我们这个赛事活动现场的这个比赛中去了。其他的还有一些相应的各种各样的赛事。那这里呢有一个也是我们新的一个赛事活动。那这个活动呢，它主要是呢让32个参赛选手同时在抢答期前去进行抢答，所以是一个非常激烈的一个赛事。但是呢，抢答的这些题目呢是非常长的一个阅读量，所以呢需要学生们呢在能够保证自己正确回答的情况下，尽快的去按下抢答器。所以这就涉及到学生在抢答过程中呢，他既要了解相应的这个地理知识，同时又有他一个策略上的一个分析。那我究竟是不是得到了足够的信息呢？那还是我现在就可以去在我不完全确认的情况下就去按下抢答器。所以这个赛事呢是一个非常激烈的，同时对学生的这个综合素质的要求非常高的一个赛事。那其他的还有一些，包括有一些看一些地理的这个相关应的一些图片呀，或者是一些其他的一些材料去进行答题的一些赛事。那大家呢，如果感兴趣的话，欢迎在我们的讲座之后呢，点入具体的赛事去了解他们的一些具体的题目的形式，还有一些赛事的信息。
Okay, so perhaps we can then go back to some of the other events that are listed there. So for the exams for geography, it's a little bit similar to what we have for history. So there's a battery exam, again, 400 multiple choice questions on all aspects of geography. Country exam, the same thing, except now in this case, the country in question is not Poland, but of all places, North Macedonia, a country in the Balkans in Eastern Europe, where the student who finishes highest on that exam will win a free trip to. Montreal, we have a day trip there. So we're going to have an exam on the bus going up to Montreal on the cultural geography of that city. Human geography exam is relatively reminiscent of the multiple choice section on the advanced placement exam for human geography. So that's another aspect of geography that we look at. The Vermont geography exam is pretty much what it sounds like. It's all about the geography of Vermont, where most of the geography championships will be taking place. And then once again, we have a written exam as well. And the written exam for the geography championships is similar to the sorts of questions that we ask about in the US geography championships. So we're directing people to that website if they're looking for study resources.
那我们看到呢，这些是一些笔答的一些考试的知识竞赛。那这个跟我们刚才看到的这个历史竞赛的其实形式是非常相似的。包括我们刚才说的 battery exam 还有 written exam， 那这个形式都跟历史的竞赛刚才介绍过的情况是几乎是一样的，所以我们就不多做赘述了。那除此之外呢，我们这里有 country exam， 同时还有一些具体的一些城市的一些 exam。那同样的，像我们刚才介绍的，如果呢，就是你在相应的这个，比如说城市或者国家的这个地理知识竞赛中取得了第1名的话，那你即将获得去往这个城市或者国家的这个免费的，这个旅行的机会。那如果是，国家的这个比赛的话呢，是跟这个历史的这个情况是完全一样的。那如果是城市的话呢，一般的话，这个旅途是免费的一天的这个旅途。所以这两个是，跟刚才我们介绍过的都是非常相似的。那然后这里呢，还有一个人文地理的一个竞赛。那其实我们都知道，在这个 AP 考试中，其实有一门课程就叫做人文地理。所以呢，如果有选择这门课程的学生呢，我个人是比较鼓励你去参加这个竞赛的，因为我相信在这个知识点中呢，会有很多这个重叠的部分，然后包括呢，这个考试可能可以帮助你去更好的去准备你未来的这个 AP 考试。对，所以呢，也欢迎这个如果有学习这个 AP 相关科目的学生呢，能够积极的参加我们的竞赛。
Okay, continuing on to have a look at the last portions of the geography championships. Of course, students have a chance to ask questions. So we'll be doing a number of field trips here as well. Obviously, the big one is the full day trip to Montreal, but we'll also have the opportunity for students to climb Mount Mansfield, the largest mountain in Vermont. It's not quite the Himalayas or the Tian Shan, but it is a beautiful mountain that overlooks the rest of the state. There's a science center right in the middle of Burlington, and that describes the cultural geography and the environmental geography of Lake Champlain, the lake that Burlington is on. There's also a maritime museum where that looks at the history of the lake. A little known fact, Lake Champlain is wedged in between the state of Vermont, the state of New York, and the Canadian province of Quebec. And right now it's very placid and calm and a vacation area, but for about a period of 100 years, from the early 1700s to the early 1800s, it was one of the most contested places in the world and was fought over in a series of no fewer than 4 or 5 different wars between the United States, Britain, France, and their Indian allies. And there's a lot of history. There are a lot of naval battles even that took place on the lake. So that museum details those. And then there's also an organic farm nearby that we'll be visiting, and that will describe, will show students a little bit about agriculture in the area and how the geography of Vermont impacts what Vermont is able to produce agriculturally. So those are the field trips. There aren't quite as many as there are at the Olympiad, but of course it's hard to compete with the wealth of experiences in New York City from a field trip standpoint. But those will be the ones that we offer. And again, in 2024, when this competition will next be held, it will be in Ecuador, and we'll have an amazing array of field trip opportunities there, including visits to the Amazon rainforest, the Galapagos Islands, Andes Mountains, and students will have a chance to do not only exams and quiz competitions, but hands-on field research as well.
那刚才 David 为我们介绍了一系列的今年呢在赛事中呢会为参赛者提供的这样的一个短途旅行的机会，那包括呢当地的这个城市中的这个一日游，还有包括附近的这些山上面的我们的一些就是山区的这样的一个旅程，然后还有包括呢到这个博物馆中去进行一些科学探索，还有就是附近的一些湖泊，还有当地的一些有机农场。所以大家如果非常感兴趣的话，也欢迎呢去查看。那同时呢 ，David 也提到呢，今年的这个赛事呢，当然肯定我相信因为疫情的一些原因，以及呢就是赛事相关的这些主办地的一些客观因素，所以它提供的这个旅程呢，并选择的多样性，可能大家感觉会比我们这个在纽约举办的这个历史的比赛呢，相对来说会少一些选择，但是呢，在这个2年后的这个南美的冠军赛中呢，我们会提供更多更丰富的这个一些可能更加吸引学生们的一些活动安排，那就包括比如说亚马逊的这个热带丛林的一些考察，还有包括当地的一些岛屿等等，所以呢，这个比赛的很多的一些相对应的活动呢，也会根据举办地的这个不同的一些地理条件而有很多的这种调整。
Okay, and just going back to the last page as well. So there are other medal events also that we should go over at the Geography Championships. There are quite a few, in fact, here. So just starting from the top, there's a great trading game all about the geography of various trade routes that we do. There's a geocache treasure hunt. This is a new event this year where students will actually have to go all over Burlington, Vermont, looking for different clues and different things that we have hidden throughout the city, and they have to use GPS and map skills to find those. There's a game that we call Geography, which is a team event where teams compete against each other on different geography quizzing matters. GeoGuessr is actually a game from Google that we'll be playing. Jeopardy is based off the American TV show Jeopardy that I was once a contestant on, and we'll have a bunch of geography themed questions there. Geographic information systems, or GIS, are very important for the work that geographers do on a day-to-day basis, who work as professionals, whether in academia or for the private sector. The Hextathlon, again, is a series of 6 different quizzes that students compete in as teams. The Knockout's another different quiz event. Symposium is once again where we have students present papers. But I definitely want to draw your attention to the task forces. So we had the task forces at the History Olympiad, but at the Geography Championships, the task forces are a major focus of the week. There are 4 of them that we're offering. So there's the geographic factors of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Vermont and climate change, rainforest conservation in Ecuador, and urban planning and gentrification in the city of Burlington, our host city. And for each of these task force, again, students are given a specific element to focus their preliminary research on. So for example, with rainforest conservation in Ecuador, one of the topics there that a student may be asked to focus on is cooperation and conflict with business interests in the rainforest. So looking at mining companies or timber companies and seeing if there's a way that accommodations can be made with them to both safeguard the rainforest and allow for a limited amount of renewable economic activity. Another sort of focus in that particular task force could be something like looking at biodiversity or working with indigenous communities. So it's looking at these different elements of real world issues from a geographic perspective. And again, thinking about the implications of them and how we can make recommendations for policymakers based on the research that you do. So this is a very important part of the geography championships because it's not just a matter of memorizing capitals or bodies of water or things like that, but actually taking that geographical knowledge that students have and figuring out how to transfer it to solve real world problems.
那刚才呢，David 也详细的去介绍了一些，除了我们刚才说到一些标准的知识竞赛以外的其他的一些活动，当然这些活动也是有奖项的，也是以竞赛的形式出现的，但是呢，它更侧重的是学生的这个综合的一些能力，包括呢，我们可以看到这里呢，它就是有一个这个越野赛，以这个越野赛的形式出现的这种寻宝活动。那孩子们呢会在这个比赛场馆附近的这个山区里面呢去寻找一系列的线索，然后呢去完成相对应的一些任务，然后最后呢会评选赛事的这个冠军。所以这是一个非常有趣的趣味性十足的一个地理的实战的这种比赛。那除此之外呢，刚才 David 还提到了一些非常，我觉得作为这个申请顾问老师来说，我觉得非常吸引我的一些活动，比如说呢，这里有这个 GIS competition， 那它呢是考察学生们的使用一些地理学家呢他们会使用的一些 GPS 的这个定位系统的这个能力，所以呢，孩子在这个过程中呢会学习到和这个去掌握一些这个实践操作这个地理的这个导航系统的能力，所以这个也是很好的去让学生们如果对地理相关的一些研究啊或者是领域感兴趣的学生们可以提前的去感受一下相应的一些仪器呀或者是技术的一些发展，然后同时呢能够为未来的这个大学的规划呢做出更好的准备。那除此之外呢，刚才还提到了我们有4个这个 task force 的这样的活动，那这些活动呢是在我们为期1周的比赛的这个日程中呢，孩子可以根据自己的这个兴趣去选择他们想要关注的热点的话题。那这些话题呢，都是跟我们的一些时事，或者呢是主办地呢所在的这个地区的一些地理环境相关的一些关注的这种 话题，还有包括呢我们目前可能社会中存在的一些地理环境的一些问题为主题的这样的一系列的这种活动或者是论坛。那其中呢，我们可以看到有最近非常热点的这个俄罗斯和乌克兰的它的这些冲突。那我们会从这个地理的角度去探索，那究竟有哪些这个地理的要素呢，去影响了这些军事啊、政治方面的一些冲突，然后包括呢还有当地的一些区域、自然区域的这种环境的保护，或者是一些环境的问题的讨论。
Okay. Any other questions then about the International Geography Championships? The other events, by the way, is mostly just a measure of different ceremonies and games. We're also having the Geography Championships overlap with the 4th of July festivities in the United States. So we're doing a few things for that too. But any questions just in general about how the geography championships work or how you can get involved?
OK，那非常感谢 David 刚才的非常详细的介绍。那接下来呢，还有这个一系列的其他的赛事期间的活动呢，我们就不一一赘述了。如果大家感兴趣的话呢，也欢迎登录网站去进行查阅。那现在呢，我们还有大概10分钟的时间可以去做一些问题的这个问答环节。那首先呢，第一个问题呢，就是刚才我看到很多学生和家长会问到的，说这个参加这个地理的知识竞赛呢，那我们是不是就一定要申请地理专业呢？那我们是否可以申请一些其他的专业呢？那我们现在让 David 老师来解答一下。Hi David, so I think the first question asked aloud by the parents is that if we like participate in this like competition, does that mean like the kids are going to apply for geography major or like related major in the future? Could they like also apply for some other majors which may be not related to geography?
Oh, absolutely. Although I would sort of counter that by saying I think almost every major at some level is related to geography. Same thing with history for that matter too. Just to give you a perfect example of my major. So sometimes we look at history and geography as subjects that aren't as rigorous perhaps as math and science. But aside from the fact that history and geography have their own quantitative dimensions as well, think of it this way. Two of the most important things that you can study are either business, international business, or international relations and political science. I actually studied international relations at Princeton and did one of my papers there with the former American ambassador to the Soviet Union. Bit of an echo. And we looked, and the topic that we looked at was US-Russian relations, which is a topic that, of course, is very much relevant to what's going on in the world today. And we looked at that from all sorts of different historical and geographical dimensions. So far from just looking at these subjects and saying that, well, this sounds interesting perhaps, but what can I really do with it? Well, there are both all sorts of different jobs in international business and then also in government and political science for which an understanding of history and geography is absolutely critical. Law is another field that has all sorts of historical and geographical determinants. If you look at the role of precedent in particular in court cases and sort of just how court cases have been adjudicated in the past as being a guide to the future. What is that if not legal history, right? And of course, international law is very important as well, and that has all sorts of geographic dimensions there too. Note that at many American universities, Princeton included, you don't need to declare a major until you're into your second year of studies, so that in many cases, the universities in the USA expect that you'll be very much in sort of research and exploration mode for the first 2 or 3 semesters that you're on campus. And in many universities, Princeton again included, but also Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and pretty much all of the big names, you're even required to take coursework in any number of different fields. And so even if you're going into engineering or chemistry or a field like that, you do need to take some coursework in the humanities and liberal arts and social sciences as well. And you may just find that some of those studies and some of those courses open your eyes to potentially a way to use chemistry or physics or engineering or any of the STEM fields to bring a scientific dimension to a problem in society today. So I think at some level, everything's interconnected. And that's certainly one of the things that we're trying to show with our competitions, is that it's not just sort of one subject here, but you have to have a broad understanding of pretty much all subjects at least some level to really understand how the world works.
那刚才 David 老师呢，也针对我们刚才就是专业方面的问题呢，去进行了一个详细的解答。那其实呢，我们在参加这个竞赛的时候呢，包括申请大学的时候，其实专业和专业之间，学科和学科之间，它的这个就是界限并不是非常的就是绝对的，或者是分明的。那比如说呢，就是其实对于地理来说，或者是历史，它其实并不是一个非常单独或者独立的学科。那我们参加历史比赛的学生可能只能去学习历史，或者地理比竞赛的学生只能去未来去学习地理专业，是不会存在这种问题的。那首先呢，第一个原因呢，就是说本身呢，这些历史和地理它作为一个基础学科，它跟很多的专业都会产生联系。那从 David 老师看来呢，其实任何的学科都可以和这两个学科去产生联系。那比如说，他本身就是学习在普林斯顿大学学习这个国际关系专业的。那这个专业呢，其实跟历史还有地理都有非常紧密的联系。包括呢，我们刚才看到呢，在这个地理知识竞赛的过程中呢，我们会有跟目前的一些社会上的政治和军事冲突有关的话题。所以呢，这些呢都表示呢，在我们学习地理的过程中，对于我们理解时事、理解社会上的热点话题都是很有帮助的。所以呢，这可以帮助学生们去学习，包括国际贸易、国际关系以及政治等等一系列的这样的相关的学科。那包括呢，如果有些学生呢，他学习这个工程相关的学科的话，也会涉及到一些这个对于历史啊或者地理方面的一些基础的理解。包括呢，第二个原因呢，就是说，不管学生呢他选择什么样的专业，在美国的大学期间，尤其是大一、大二期间呢，都是在这个我们叫做这种博雅教育的环境下去进行学习的。所以呢，学生们呢，其实他学的不仅仅是自己学科内的知识，他还要去选修其他的学科的知识，从而去探索不同的领域，来最终的在2到3个学期的这个大学的学习过后呢，去确定自己未来的专业方向。所以呢，学生们即使呢在这个大学申请过程中选择了一个初始的专业的话，并不意味着他们未来的发展方向一定是这个专业。我也遇到过很多的学生，他其实最后这个毕业的时候的拿到的学位证的专业，跟他这个大学申请的时候的专业其实是完全没有关系的。这个都是学生们在探索的过程中会发生的很正常的情况。所以呢，我们并不需要说在孩子们这么早期的时候就非常早的去确认他如果参加了什么活动，未来只能去申请什么样的专业，这种情况呢是不存在的。那在这些竞赛的过程中呢，孩子们去储备的一些基础的知识，对社会的这种理解，还有他们的批判性思维，以及他们在学习的专注力和毅力，那是大学呢所更希望去看到的。同时呢，我们因为今天的这个时间有限呢，可能对于比赛的一些具体的准备呀，还有这么多赛事，我们如何去选择这些的问题呢，很难去做一一的去做一个介绍或者解释。那如果呢，对于自己的孩子的情况有具体问题的家长呢，也欢迎呢在这个讲座之后呢联系我们。那我们呢可以为大家呢去进行1对1的解答。然后有很多有丰富经验的升学顾问老师呢，会结合呢各个学生的这个具体的情况，以及未来的一些职业发展的规划，去做出更加有针对性的一些建议。所以呢，希望大家呢能够添加我们的这个微信的小助手，或者是发邮件来联系我们，去进行这个 免费的1对1的这个指导。那同时呢，我们也会帮助大家去在这个会后呢，去不断的去跟我们的 David 老师去联系，去提供赛事最新的这个相关的信息。And thank you, David, so much for today. Because of the limited time, I don't think we have any other question we can answer today, but we will forward like any other questions from the parents and students to you after the meeting.
Sure.
And we will keep in touch definitely. Thank you so much and have a good night.
Sure. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat as well. And we're very busy this week preparing for our geography championships, which start just a week from now. So I may be a little bit slower to respond than usual, but I do respond to everybody who emails me. So that's my email there if you like.
然后今天呢 ，David 老师为我们提供了赛事的官网以及他自己的个人的联系信息。那呢，也欢迎呢大家在这个我们的讲座之后呢，如果产生了兴趣的话，能够积极的去搜索更多的跟赛事有关的信息。然后呢，我们也欢迎很期待呢，在之后的赛事中能够在赛场上见到各位学生和家长们。那接下来的时间呢，就交给我的同事 James 来进行接下来的讲座。
Thank you so much, David. It's our pleasure to have you today. Hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you. And 谢谢欣怡老师，也是非常荣幸啊，今天请到了 David 老师来做这么一个非常有意义的分享。也是正如欣怡老师所说，如果大家对这个项目感兴趣的话呢，一定要添加我们的微信官方小助手。All right, thank you so much, David.
谢谢。
谢谢 ，Thank you.